this person you're about to meet is such an integral part of the WA writing community. They're really only new. The last couple of years they've sort of risen to prominence, but in a different way. They're writing books. They've got a book out at the moment, but they also have taken the big step to interview so many WA authors for their Booktoberfest campaign that they do the last couple of years. They've got some issues, medical issues that would normally hold other people back, but for them, it just powers them to go on and to follow their passion, and they're an inspiration. You know them. It's Imani Benfell, more commonly known as Imani the author. So, and I wanted to get to know them. I wanted to know them a little bit better so we can all understand where they come from and know their story. So, let's get to know Imani Benfell. Imani Benfell, welcome to Josh Langley Gets to Know. How are you going?
I'm going good, thank you very much.
Well, this is interesting. The tables have turned because you're normally the one interviewing everyone else and putting them in the hot seat. And now I get a chance to put you in the hot seat and we get to know all about you. And I know that the entire WA writing community is eager to watch this interview because half of them have been interviewed by you, and now they get to find out who Imani is. And I think that is going to be a very interesting little chat. Are you ready?
Yes.
Excellent. Now your book, Mysteries of Maybelle, I'm calling it Maybelle, it could be Maybelle, whichever one. What was the inspiration behind that?
Well, I had just finished reading the Charlie Barnes series, and I loved how the author portrayed the sorcerer in the castle. I got really intrigued. I thought, what happens if I was a character in that and I saw a castle off in the distance? What would I do in that situation? And coincidentally, I had to write a story for a workshop, so I got writing on it and I started elaborating. And then next workshop I had to do, I wrote another one because I got so intrigued by that one. And then they turned into chapters, and it kind of just flowed from there. And then it was the editing, and then it was all the hard stuff. But yeah, that's really where it came from.
So how did you find the editing process for that book? Is editing something
Annoying.
that you? Sorry.
Annoying. I don't like editing. I like writing, but I can't edit for the life of me, no.
I know there's a lot of writers out there that actually love the editing process. And personally, I'm not one of them. I'm not a big fan of editing, but I'm glad people do edit my work because otherwise it would be terrible. So you're not a big fan of editing, but it's the ideas and getting the ideas down and doing that initial. So how many drafts did you do for Mysteries of Maybelle?
I can't recall, but I think there was at least 11. I think I put like a post up about it being like 11.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right. So what's the response been like from people? Obviously it's targeted at young adults.
It's more of a middle grade, but it can be interpreted for a young adult. I don't know, it's like lower YA and upper middle grade. But yeah, it's been very well received. It's a bit slow at the moment because I'm really trying to get it more out there with Booktoberfest and really, trying. But yeah, It's been really good. I've got a couple of positive feedbacks from it. I've got a book review floating around somewhere about it, so it's been quite good.
And you've got it in a couple of libraries in Perth, haven't you?
Yes, I've got it in one of the City of Swan libraries, and I have it in Rebel Books at the moment.
Whoa, Rebel Books. Excellent. That's good. That's good. That's a good shop to be in. Excellent. So speaking about Booktoberfest, now you've done that 2 years in a row. You have interviewed had done over 60 interviews, I'm assuming, because you do an interview a day for Booktoberfest. Why did you want to do it? That's a massive thing, because you reached out to all WA and Australian authors to interview them. What made you want to do that?
Well, when I first got the idea, I thought I was so new to the writing community. Like, my book was just so fresh. And I thought, I want to get to know these people because I don't know any of them. I'm like a stranger to them. And it's such a lovely community. And I thought, hey, I'm going to ask a few. So I looked around social media and I had a look and I talked to a couple of people and they said they loved these authors and they were Australian. So I decided I wanted to interview them. So I sent some emails out and I started devising like this huge plan. And yeah, and then a bunch signed on. There was some that didn't reply to me. There was some that went, no, I'm just really busy at the moment, but I would love to.
Some didn't reply to you.
No, some just ghosted me. That was a bit awkward.
Whoa, won't name names, will we? Anyway, yes, keep going.
But, and then I actually managed to get to know a lot of them, like most of them are like some of my friends now, especially you. I know you now. So that's amazing. Very, very, very upside towards Booktoberfest. But yeah, last year I interviewed at least 18, but now I interviewed 30 and I had to cut people off my list. So I was really upset because I had so many authors I wanted to interview and they were all keen to interview me and be interviewed by me.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, normally you put the feelers out to an author and say, oh, look, I would really love to interview you and talk about your books. Most authors go, I am there, put dinner on, let's go, we're going to be there, because we're all about getting this self-promotion thing happening, and that's so important. But for you to reach out, to take that initiative and go, okay, I'm going to reach out to all these authors, and that's a scary thing to do. And to all these people you don't know, that you may go, oh, look, there's an author up there, and what do I do? And you reached out and you contacted, and as you said, most of them said yes. And you actually went through and did the interviews, because I know that a lot of people, to actually conduct an interview is like, what do I do? What do I say? And you just did it brilliantly. And that's why I think every other author, WA author I've spoken of who has been interviewed by you has just said the exact same thing. It's just, you're so good at just making people feel comfortable, and you're so curious about their work. And I know that what you're doing is quietly in the background, you're taking little bits of ideas and little tidbits that everyone's mentioning, and you're putting it all together and you're putting it in your head. So I'm assuming that your next book that you'll write will have all this, backed by all this writing knowledge now. Am I right?
Yeah, I've definitely got a lot of advice, so I'm hoping my writing will definitely be vastly improved.
What is the best bit of advice you've heard, or that someone's given you?
That's hard because I've got advice from nearly 30 authors this year.
What's one that stood out to you that made you go, oh, good point?
I think there was one that said try new genres and expand your view. And that actually really helped me because I heard that last year for Booktoberfest. And that actually really helped me because I was always writing fantasy because Mysteries Maybelle is fantasy. And then I did, and I've actually started writing and drafting up my first dystopian sci-fi-ish, very, yeah. So I've started expanding my view on, and I've actually enjoyed it. So that's given me a new writing perspective.
That is really good. I mean, I've heard about reading outside your favorite genre. I've heard about that. You know, like say if you read science fiction, fantasy, why don't you read a romance novel or something like that, just to get different perspectives and different writing styles, see how different language has been used and all that. Because because your brain's like a sponge and just soaks all this up, and then when you go back to write yourself, you sort of regurgitate all this new information. I think that's, now I've got some quick questions that people have sent me, and because they know that I'm going to be interviewing you, and so do you mind if I do some quick fire questions? I know you do the quick fire questions with your people, so I'm going to do it with you. Okay, so Nadia King has said she wants to know how you stay positive. She's always amazed at how you deal with difficult people on social media, and that when she grows up, she wants to be like you. So how do you deal with negative people on social media? How do you stay positive with all that?
Well, I kind of like to hear their side of it, so see where they're coming from, because there might have been just a misunderstanding, maybe a bit of miscommunication, or maybe they just for some reason don't like me and some weird thing. So yeah, I just like to see where they're coming from, and if it gets really rude or inappropriate, I just block them. I just block them and delete it.
Good idea. Life's too short to put up with some people who step over that line. Block them
Exactly.
and move on.
And
Block them and move on. Now, Maddie wants to know what's your favourite ice cream?
It used to be like my top one used to be salted caramel riffle, but then I tried celiac friendly cookies and cream ice cream for the first time, and that's now taken first place for my top favorite ice cream.
I must admit, cookies and cream, but have a celiac version. I suppose it would taste pretty much the same then, wouldn't it? Because I love cookies and cream. That's one of my favorites. Not like avocado ice cream, which I suggested to you last time, which is like. Now, Nevo wanted to know which book would you live in? If you could choose any book that had obviously a setting, which one would you live in to live?
Well, I wouldn't want to live in the middle of a book. Like I would choose the last chapters, when everything's peaceful and calm. But if I had to choose, I would love to live in Euphoria Kids by Alison Evans. It's just so peaceful and it's calm, and there's witches that are nice. Because if I lived in there, I would just be a witch, like doing the potions, doing magic in the garden. Like that's my type of people.
Is this the typical witch where you got to go find 3 frogs and rip the heads off and put them in, and then the carcass of a small cat?
No,
or
it's
something
more like
that?
Herbal magic. So like you use
okay.
stir, and it actually makes like actual magic out of herbs. So it's really, really cool. And like,
Well,
I want to do that.
You're lucky you wouldn't be living in the Middle Ages, because they would.
Oh no,
they'd
no,
come
no,
and,
no witch.
they would
I
come
don't want
and
to be a
get
witch
you.
in the Middle Ages.
No, not a good idea. Now, Norman Jorgensen. Norman Jorgensen wants to know where you get your ideas from.
Well, I'll be reading, and like as I'm reading, there's like one like concept, and inside that like a thought pops in my head, and then there's like this spark, and it's like one piece of a puzzle, and then it's like molding and forming, and then trying to piece together a puzzle. And once it clicks, then I have my idea. So it's kind of like just some concepts throughout a book, and then they all merge together, and then one day it just makes sense. And then I'm also in nature. So
I agree. Nature is the big one for me, and I think that's. I'm looking down there because I've dropped my piece of paper with all my questions on it. But you know what? I'm just going to wing it. We're just going to see how we go. So I agree. Nature is a great inspiration because it creates space in the mind for ideas to come in. But I like your idea of just having bits of the puzzle and then letting it just mull over and just formulating in your brain, and then it pops out as something. I like that idea. Now, I want to now talk about something that I think defines you in a way, not that it does define you, but it defines what you do and part of what you do. And that you have, let me know if I say this correctly, Ehlers Danlos Syndrome.
You said it perfectly, and yes, I do.
That's just, what actually is it, and how does it affect you?
So, Ehlers Danlos, which can also be shortened to EDS, is a genetic connective tissue disorder. And what it is pretty much affects my organs and my muscles, my joints, and everything that just holds me together as a whole. And
like it could just fall apart at any moment.
Sort of. Like I pop out my joints very easy. Like my full shoulder came out at one point, just like slightly reaching out to grab my jacket. Wow. And it just fell out. It was like, okay, time to go show everyone. It was very painful at first. Like it was painful at first, but then it was like slightly easing off, you know, because I'm very stretchy, so my joints do hold together when I pop them out. But
so do you have to, obviously then you have to be really watchful and careful of what you're doing, what your presence is, and how you're living in the world, so you don't overstretch yourself, if that makes sense.
I have to learn not to jump on a stack of 20 beanbags. That's how I first popped down my hip.
Jump on the beanbags?
Pile of beanbags. I need to learn not to do that now.
Wow. So is there any treatment? There's any cure on the horizon, or what happens with that?
Not really, as it's genetic, so I'm kind of stuck with it, but I'm learning to manage it. So I'm learning how to pace myself so I don't overexert myself and I don't get exhausted very fast. I'm
Because
learning
that's one
to,
of the things is the trait you get physically exhausted, and
yeah,
you have to just rest, and because that does that tie in with the because you've got chronic fatigue syndrome as well, don't you?
yeah, it comes with its fun bundle pack. Like, get
Wow.
EDS, get all these other conditions free.
Gee, thanks. So I want to know because that doesn't seem to have curbed your enthusiasm or your wanting your thirst for knowledge and your desire to keep writing and to keep doing stuff. So does it get you down?
Yeah, it occasionally does, like, because it's like, oh, I'm never going to be able to fully run this, or I'm never going to be able to do that. But then I always just remember, like, it's not all I am, and then I remember all of the other parts of me, and I remember what I actually am. So yeah, I don't let it get in the way of things all the time. Sometimes it will put me down. Sometimes it will make me not be able to stand up and stuff. But I do have good days as well as bad.
Okay, and I suppose it's just part of life. And did you when do you, have you ever grown up or ever had the moments where you just go, why me? Hmm.
I'm always like, why did the genes have to choose me? Like, why couldn't they just stay dormant? I could know when I've got them.
They could have just stayed asleep or something like that, and So I want to move on to something else now because obviously every now and then I see you change your hair color. Normally it's purple, now it's green. Why did you go green?
Well, I love the color turquoise because it's a little bit of a tealy, greeny aqua color, and with my brown hair, I could never pull it off because it would just be brown and it would have like a sort of sheen to it.
Mm.
I love purple, but I've never been able to pull this off. And then when I got my hair highlighted for like this wacky, crazy purple experiment, I want to do turquoise first because I want to see if I could pull it off. And I think I do. I like my hair when it's turquoise.
I think it works. I think it works. Now you're gonna have that because I know we can't talk about this because it's all big top secret stuff. But you're going to be part of a documentary series coming up shortly about people with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. Am I right?
Chronic illness and how we deal with it.
Right. Okay. I can see why they've picked you, but we can't talk anymore. So everybody watching, shh, don't say a word. Okay. Now, getting onto something else that I think you're quite passionate about is LGBTQI issues, and I often see a rainbow flag in the background when you be doing your interviews. Now, tell me if I'm going out of step here, but you identify as bisexual and gender fluid. Am I right?
Yes, I do.
How do you how is this the first time you've spoken about this in public? Am I the first person to ask you this?
Not really. Like,
Oh,
I
good.
make it
Thank you.
quite obvious in interviews. Like, whenever there's like an LGBTQ question when I interview people, I'm always like, and yeah, I'm this, and I'm really chill and open about it. And I kind of give off the queer vibes to some people. Like, someone's actually asked if I'm queer, and I'm like, why? And they're like, you just give off queer vibes. I'm
What
like,
do they
that's
call
all.
it? QP, queer presenting. I've seen that somewhere. Now, I'll give you an example of how observant I'm not. Okay, there was a guy I went to high school with, and recently we follow each other on Facebook. And several years ago, he posted a picture of himself at the Perth Pride Parade, and I put a comment up. Oh, that's so nice that you're supporting the LGBTI community. We need more supporters than ever. And he just wrote underneath, like, duh. I'm gay myself. I came out a couple of years ago. I went, oh, okay, fair enough. Oops. So I'm sometimes not the most observant there is. Now, gender fluid. Can you, for a lot of people, it can get really confusing. Can you describe what that is and how it feels?
Yeah, so gender fluid doesn't mean that I lose body parts and I grow body parts every single day. So that's what someone thought it was when I
Really?
told them I was gender fluid. That was very confusing conversation. But it essentially means my identity, so how I view myself changes. So some days, if I'm on the more feminine end of the spectrum, I might identify a little bit more feminine. sometimes more masculine, sometimes no gender, sometimes more non-binary. It's like a wibbly wobbly line of identity.
So does that come under the banner of pansexual? Or is that something
No,
different?
pan's more of a sexuality. So pan is, they don't really have much of a preference to gender when they're dating. I think it's more of a personality thing. I don't really know because I can't speak to their experience. I'm not pan myself, but that's what I think it is. That's
So
what I think the definition is.
what have you had any reaction from adults about your gender fluidity?
Not really. Everyone's been rather supportive. It's just the they pronouns sometimes confuse people because they're like, so am I talking to a group? And I say this, I'm like, no, you're talking to me.
Because
yeah,
look, it can be confusing because your gender pronoun is they them. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, and because people, it's habitual to say he or she, and I think it's good that we challenge ourselves to go, actually, no, let's just stop and go, okay, well, look, there's a different factor here. You've got to acknowledge the person for who they are, and if they are gender fluid and they are they or them, then that's how we need to do that. And we need to sort of not keep slipping back into, because when I do school visits, I don't ever call anyone boy or girl or young lady or young boy. I don't call anyone anything by any gender anymore, because I got caught out so many times by saying, come up here, young girl, young lady, or something like that. And they'll go, I'm a boy, or something like that. And they go, right, okay. I had to learn myself to change the way I speak and the way I speak to people. And I think that what you're doing is teaching everyone else to do the exact same thing. What do you say to people, like adults who go, oh, it's just a phase, they'll grow out of it?
That's a complicated thing because that's where I have to refrain myself from getting really, really, really upset about this. But I'm always like, then I always find some way to have a comeback. Like one of my most favorite ones is that, how do you know that you're not a phase? Because how do you know? How are you too young to know that you're queer, but you're not too young to know you're straight? How do you know you're not too young that you're non-cis and etc.? And like, how do you know that yours is not a phase? So yeah, I just don't get their logic. Like, what is their logic in their argument?
And I know from my experience, and the fact that you're 14, when I was 14, I knew I was attracted to guys. I knew that, but that was as far as it went. I would never have I'm minded, this is in the 80s. You don't come out at that age. You just kept it well hidden. You kept everything in the closet. You never raised your head above the pulpit or anything like that, because you become a target. So that's why I think it is so important for people like yourself to be you, to be open and to be honest, and to teach us oldies some new things, and to change the way that we think, to move us out of our linear way of thinking, to think the world's actually a lot different than what we think it is, and it's a lot richer. Because I'm assuming that people your age don't have a problem with being bisexual, being gay, being gender fluid. Am I right?
Yeah, we're all pretty open. Like, I know a couple of people that actually their school did training on they them pronouns. Like, most of my friends had that at their school, and I was like, yes. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a lot safer for the LGBTQ community now. Like, it's definitely a lot safer than it was before. Still a lot to go. Like, there's still a lot of homophobia, but
yep,
definitely made progress on that.
And with people like yourself, we will make more progress, and we'll keep going, and we'll keep inviting change and keeping people to open their minds and open their hearts, which I think is fantastic. Now, Imani, what's next? What projects are you working on now? So I know your mind's always thinking, you're always scheming.
Indeed, I am. If we're talking writing-wise, I've got a lot going on because I've got a lot of manuscripts on the way. I'm writing a picture book. I've submitted to an anthology. I'm rewriting Mysteries of Maybelle to give it a bit more of a flair.
I'll put the picture up here. Yep. And what else?
I'm after I finish rewriting Mystery Maybelle, I'm going to write the sequel, Ace's Journey.
Okay.
Then I'm also writing Rebellious, which is my dystopian one that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing another picture book idea that I've got going, and I've got a couple of other book ideas that are on the way. And I've also started doing art.
There's a jam art in there as well. And lucky you're homeschooled. That's all I can say. So I was going to say, have you got a pitch and all that lined up for when you rewrite Mysteries of Mabel to actually pitch to a publisher?
No, I'm still very far away.
So if someone from Fremantle Press or something like that is watching this and they go, well, I might be interested in this, I would love to see a pitch, the first 10 pages and a bit of a bio of Imani. Is she ready to send it?
Yeah, I would be ready because I fully edited the first chapter, and I'm halfway editing the second chapter. I've got the third chapter and the fourth chapter, and I've got chapters.
And you've got
I'm adding new chapters in, so it makes it confusing because I'm like the first fourth chapter, the original fourth chapter.
You've done my head in already, yeah. But you've got a book pitch with the target audience and all that sort of stuff.
And I've also got someone with EDS in it because representation.
And that's important, right? It's also right from what you know, because then you add authenticity to that character. That character lives and breathes what you're living and breathing. And while people are reading it, then they get educated and they become learned and they become better people because they've read your book.
Yeah, because I don't like when you're talking about chronic illness and you just do it to shove the knowledge down someone's throat. That's why I added Asa in this, because I'm like, she's just casual about it. She's doing this adventure, she's doing the hiking, she's fighting these magical creature things, and then it kind of pops up around there. Like, I'm not shoving it down people's throats. I'm just saying this is what it would be like if you were. Well, I can't speak for the entire community. Of course, everyone has different experiences. This is what it would be like for me if I was in this situation.
And that's a good way to educate people, just gently, beautifully, and through storytelling. And that's one of the best ways to do it.
That's the best way to learn.
Imani, where can people get in touch with you? Where's the best place?
On my website, I have a contact form. I have my email. So
okay, I'll put your website down here, which is imanitheauthor.com, or is it .com.au?
.com.au, I believe.
.com.au. Good to see your memory's working well. .com.au. Imani the author. I'll put it down there. Look, Imani, thank you so much for spending time with me. I think I've got to know you a lot better, and I think people watching this have got to know you a lot better. So thank you so much for your time. Good luck with all your endeavors.
Thank you. It was wonderful for you to have me. I loved it.
Thanks, Imani. Okay, so I'm recording now. The other day I was doing an interview and I nearly forgot to record it. I went, oh, shit. You start recording it. All right, oh, God. Okay, we'll just start the whole thing again. Do you have any embarrassing stories you want to tell me, Imani? Is there anything that we should know?
Which one? So I was in a very important Zoom meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was one person left in the call and I said goodbye to them, but after that I accidentally said I love you, and I was like, no, I didn't, I don't, I'm sorry, no, this was an accident, this was a mistake. And they're like, it's okay, it's fine. And then they left. I was like,
you told them you loved them. Did you actually really mean that? Did you love them, or was it just I love you?
Just a simple, when you accidentally say it to your teacher but you don't.
Yeah,
like your teacher, like your least favorite teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, so I could be standing just right there, solid ground, not moving, flat, everything. And for no reason, I would just fall to the ground. No reason. Trip over my own air and fall to the ground.
That must. Have you done that in public?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And then you just get up and get, sorry, everybody, sorry. And for my next act.
Oh, there was one in Steve Heron's. I accidentally called him old in the interview. Yep. Then right after that, I farted.
You called him old and then you farted. I don't think I've done that in an interview yet. What you never know.
I have 0% spatial awareness too, so I'll just be standing, and then for no reason I will just there'll like be that's how I nearly broke my first. That's how I got my nearly broken toe. I was just walking, and then suddenly there was like a large cabinet. It was right in front of me, right? But I didn't see it, and I ran my toe into it.
So it jumped out at you though. That's what happened, didn't it? The
That's
cupboard
what I'm gonna
jumped
say.
out.
Yes,
Yeah.
the thing jumped at me, the inanimate object, and there was a blooper in Elaine Forestall's. It's better if you see it, not if I explain it, because it's a lot more funnier if you see it. It's in the first blooper reel because there's 4 blooper reels,
Yeah.
and each one has a section dedicated to me with my brain fog moments and me with my mess
Yeah.
ups. If you watch all 4, you're gonna see how I'm like the mirror of embarrassment. How
So
I
everyone,
am
go back, find
embarrassed.
Imani's blooper reels, and set yourself up with a glass of wine or a coffee, and you'll have hours of entertainment. So, hi, thank you very much for watching the latest episode of Josh Langley Gets to Know. Got any questions? Whether you want to say whether you liked it, you didn't like the interview, and like my hair's too grey or something like that, post a comment below. I won't get upset. Okay. Now, gratuitous plug here. If you want to grab my books, Been You Is Enough, Okay to Feel the Way You Do, or Magnificent Mistakes, or all 3, just go to my website at joshlangley.com.au, because it's about trying to change the world one book at a time, helping one kid just to feel good about who they are and feel good in their own skin. If we can just help one child, then they may help another child, then another one, then another one, and then that's how we slowly change the world. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next episode.